243 ideal candidates revealed as the billionaire chose the plus-size girl. An incredible, touching journey unfolds. Jenna Morgan stared at her phone screen, breath hitching as the headlines screamed at her. She had applied for the fashion competition last week, but never imagined the possibility that she'd be among the shortlisted. Shadows of uncertainty danced across her mind. At 26, with a body that clashed with industry standards, could she really take on fashion royalty? She felt heavy under the weight of expectation from her family, who believed success was synonymous with running their family diner, to a community that nurtured tradition over dreams. As the morning rush in the diner began, the clattering of plates and hum of familiar voices surrounded her, yet her heart raced unique to a different rhythm. Was this her moment, or was it folly? The neon sign above, flickering open, was a pitiless reminder of her casual existence. Could she leave that life behind for fabrics and seams? Fingers trembling, she returned to the scalding coffee pot, pouring herself a cup. Jenna tried focusing on her tasks, but the flurry of excitement mingled with doubt. How would Blake Remington, the billionaire behind the competition, react to her designs? They were inspired by the vibrant colors of her small-town life and a desire to break free from traditional norms. She imagined the whispers of her community, the murmurings of judgment that had echoed against her ambitions. What could a plus-size girl possibly bring to fashion? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With each passing moment, Jenna's optimism morphed into turmoil. A flash of determination surged through her, battling against the seeds of self-doubt. Then, there were voices in her head, the critics from her past, pushing against her dreams like relentless waves. How could she shake off the fear of failure? Locking her eyes on the countertop, the bright red of the diner's decor blurred as the stares of her mother, her community, circled around her. When the email came, a rush of excitement flooded her veins, only for it to plummet into despair when she read the responses from others who were also selected. Their profiles showcased hybrid careers, polished appearances, everything she feared she lacked. The undeniable sense of inferiority tangled itself around her heart, squeezing tightly. But just when it seemed she'd spiral into a pit of despair, Margaret, a seasoned fashion designer, appeared. Her wisdom offered a tether, urging Jenna to embrace her size and creativity. Yet, the very next day, scandal erupted. She read harsh allegations questioning her ethics and artistry, leaving her breathless. Would they know her worth? Or would the fragments of familial obligation and societal pressure swallow her whole? In the depths of her mind, Jenna grappled with a relentless question: could she truly step into the light and redefine beauty in a world that often silenced her? The storm within her swirled, leaving her one choice: would she stand up for herself, or allow her dreams to fade into a quiet acceptance of who others thought she should be? A murmur of dread festered in her chest, and the haunting possibility loomed: this was not just a competition, but a battleground for her very soul. The morning sun filtered through the diner's window, casting a golden hue on Jenna's station as she mechanically wiped down tables. Her heart, however, felt like it was caught in an unrelenting storm. The chaos of customer orders was a far cry from the chaos brewing inside her. The allegations against her swirling in the media had struck like a thunderbolt, igniting all her insecurities. Were her dreams too lofty? Could she even compete with the polished lives of those she envied, the designers with years of experience and degrees from renowned fashion institutes? When the diner finally quieted down during the midday lull, Jenna slipped into the back room, seeking refuge. She took a deep breath, allowing a moment of self-examination. Instead of sinking into despair, she needed to realign her focus. This was about more than just the competition. It was about her identity, her desire to be seen, not just heard. Retrieving her sketchbook, she sat down at a makeshift table littered with patterns and threads. Each design she poured her heart into came rushing back, a kaleidoscope of vibrant hues reflecting her journey, her struggles, and her victories as a plus-size woman in a size zero-centric world. The sketches seemed to whisper encouragement. Hadn't Margaret's words ignited something within her? Perhaps it was time for a different strategy. Embracing her narrative could be her greatest asset. With renewed purpose, Jenna poured her energy into sketching, utilizing the very textures and patterns that told the story of who she was. Her body was not a hindrance, it was a canvas of resilience. She added a note beside one of her designs: clarity through chaos. It resonated deeply. She would wrestle with the chaos of societal judgment and emerge not as a shadow but as a beacon of authenticity. As she worked, Jenna began drafting a plan. She would respond to the scandal in the press with unapologetic confidence. First, she would use social media not just to showcase her designs, but to share her story, the challenges she faced, the doubts that haunted her, and the beauty she saw in herself every day. This wasn't about presenting a perfect image, it was about being real, transparent, and fiercely passionate. That evening, Jenna decided to share a video on her platforms, revealing the rawness of her journey. Her voice trembled at first, but as she spoke about embracing her size, her struggles and her designs, something shifted. It felt like a weight had lifted. The incoming comments were a mixture of support and skepticism, with echoes of past criticisms resonating through her mind. Yet, what surprised her most was the growing community rallying behind her. They understood the constant battle of self-acceptance, and their support was like a tide lifting her boat. With the submissions deadline looming, the fear wormed its way back in. Would these newfound supporters diminish at the first sight of failure? Jenna clenched her fists, transforming that fear into fuel. The time for questioning herself was over. She needed to confront the doubt head-on. Gradually, she turned her attention back to the designs, refining every detail with purpose. The pieces began to reflect not just her creativity, but her journey towards self-acceptance. This was her voice, her art, and no one could take that away from her. Yet as she prepared to submit her designs, an unexpected message appeared on her phone. It was from Blake Remington himself, a request for a private chat. With a racing heart, she realized this could be her chance to directly confront the very fears that had haunted her. Could this engagement lead to acceptance, or was it simply another setback waiting to unfold? Jenna took a deep breath. The stakes had never been higher, and the moment of truth was almost upon her, threading anticipation through her veins. She had to answer the question that had haunted her since this journey began: would she rise to her own definition of success, or would she flag under the pressure of expectations? As Jenna stared at her phone, the glowing screen felt like an anchor pulling her deeper into a sea of uncertainty. Blake Remington, the very person whose opinions she had feared the most, had reached out. But was this an opportunity or just another chance for her insecurities to rear their ugly heads? She hesitated, her fingers hovering over the keyboard, the prospect of answering almost paralyzing. The whirlwind of self-doubt spun through her mind, conjuring images of Blake's sharp gaze, the glimmers of disdain she feared might lie behind his compliments. Yet, could she truly afford to strangle her voice again? She was done dimming herself. Just breathe, she muttered to herself. Each heartbeat echoed loud in the stillness, urging her to reclaim her narrative. After pouring so much vulnerability into her designs and sharing her journey with her budding audience online, how could she regress? With a determined breath, Jenna composed a response, striving for authenticity without succumbing to their expectations. "I'd love to chat. When are you free?" She hit send, her heart hammering as she feared the worst. The minutes dragged on like hours. Each rattling thought threatened to undo the progress she fought so hard to achieve. She loathed that her confidence built on exposure, feedback, and validation seemed to wane in the presence of a single judgment. To counter this, she turned back to her sketches. They were her allies, her weapons against doubt. After what felt like an eternity, a reply pinged. "How about tomorrow at 3 p.m? Fuck, that was too soon. Jenna felt the familiar pressure grip her chest like a vice. Tomorrow? She had anticipated a longer runway, a chance to prepare her defenses, to bolster her resolve. Okay, she typed back, reluctantly accepting the challenge ahead. Now, she needed to strategize. A plan ignited within her. She could plunge into this meeting blind, but she preferred to operate with intention. This was her shot to articulate her vision, her artistry, and the narrative she intended to present not just for herself but for every individual who felt sidelined in the world of fashion. That evening, Jenna forced herself to unravel her thoughts onto paper. What she wanted Blake to understand became the framework she would build her conversation around. This was not just a pitch about designs, it was an exploration of identity in a world that often marginalized those who didn't fit its mold. Each point she crafted held weight, heavy with meaning. As she reviewed her notes, the flicker of trepidation was stifled by the flame of resolve. She visualized standing confidently, articulating her triumphs and struggles in the face of overwhelming odds. This could be a pivotal moment, a chance to shift perceptions not just for herself but for her audience who intertwined their lives with hers. Later that night, sleep was elusive. Every time she closed her eyes, potential scenarios played out her mind: Blake's approving nod, critical frown, or the discomfort of uncertainty hanging heavy in the air. The worried narratives had to be quieted. When dawn broke, Jenna rose with an unusual clarity. She resolved to embrace whichever direction this conversation took her. Victory was not solely about winning Blake's validation, it resided in taking control and defining success on her own terms. She put on one of her own designs, a piece that encapsulated her journey, feeling the familiar fabric hug her body, a reminder of her resilience and the love woven into each thread. Today was not merely about displaying her creation, it was about presenting an idea. And as 3 p.m. approached, anticipation mixed with anxiety coursed through her veins, threading her courage into a taut line that would connect her past struggles to the future she envisioned. Could she truly articulate that vision to Blake? The time had come to face not just him, but the echoes of her fears. Would she emerge with affirmation, or would she falter under the pressure? The midday sun filtered through the tall windows of the cafe, casting golden stripes across the polished wooden tables where Jenna sat. Her heart felt like a metronome, marking time toward the moment that could change everything. The smell of fresh coffee was invigorating, yet it offered little comfort against the whirlwind of emotions beneath the surface. When Blake entered, the air shifted. His presence was commanding, almost daunting. The moment his eyes locked onto hers, a flash of doubt crept in, but Jenna wasn't about to let her bravado flicker. She stood, greeting him with a smile that she hoped was steady and sincere. "Thanks for meeting with me," she managed, her voice steadier than she felt. "Of course," Blake said, sliding into the seat opposite her with an air of casual confidence. "I've seen your work online. You've started to make quite a name for yourself." "Thanks," Jenna replied, her heart racing as the implications of his words settled in. This was it. She could ride this wave of encouragement or let it crash around her. After they exchanged pleasantries, Jenna felt the weight of the discussion shift toward her. She launched into her plan with urgency, illustrating her vision for an inclusive fashion line that championed diversity in body types. With each elaboration, she portrayed her sketches not just as fabric or patterns, but as stories waiting to be told. "Fashion shouldn't dictate who feels beautiful," she said, passion igniting her words. "It's about empowering individuals, helping them reclaim their narrative through what they wear." Yet, as she spoke, the shadow of Blake's skepticism loomed. His brow furrowed as he absorbed her ideas, and the silence that followed felt heavy with unspoken critique. Jenna's resolve faltered, and she caught herself questioning whether she was reaching him at all. Blake leaned back slightly, crossing his arms. "I see the intention behind your work, but what are the practicalities? There are existing challenges in the industry. Consumers want what sells, and sometimes, that can mean sacrificing the message for marketability." The words stung, piercing through her confidence. Jenna pressed her lips together, fighting the urge to retreat into doubt. This was the moment she had prepared for the confrontation with an industry titan's mindset. But, she countered, feeling the fire building within her. A strong message can enhance marketability. Authenticity attracts a loyal customer base. People want to connect with the brands they purchase from. Blake's expression softened, yet Jenna sensed a guarded caution in his response. "True, but can you give me concrete examples? How can you stand out in a saturated market?" It was a challenge she had anticipated, but the pressure ignited the purest sense of determination in her. The flickers of self-doubt faded into a firm spark of creativity. She outlined her marketing strategy, citing case studies where passion-driven brands flourished by pushing boundaries. Jenna shared anecdotes from her own journey, showcasing how connection with her audience had transformed mere followers into a community. For a moment, Blake seemed taken aback, processing the authenticity in her narrative. The tension shifted in the air. The conversation moved fluidly, Jenna's creative energy redoubling with every response. But just as momentum built, Blake shifted his posture, the skepticism returning. Interesting, Jenna. But what if you're met with resistance from traditional avenues? Not everyone is going to embrace your vision. The shadow of doubt resurfaced, and Jenna felt a flicker of anxiety sizzle through her. This was at the moment she needed to confront her concern of being sidelined. I can't guarantee everyone will understand, but I believe change takes courage. Look at me, I've felt unwanted too, and yet I still chose to create. We need to challenge norms if we truly want transformation. Blake regarded her with new intensity, a mix of admiration and uncertainty glimmering in his eyes. Jenna could feel the friction of her doubts battling against her burgeoning resolve. She had stepped outside the box they'd all grown accustomed to, vulnerable but unyielding. As the conversation reached a plateau, Jenna realized there was something crucial lurking beneath the surface of every interaction. This wasn't just about winning Blake over, it was about facing the fears that had held her captive for too long. The cafe buzzed around them as Jenna sat poised, her next words teetering on the edge of revelation. Would she hold her ground and fight for her vision, or would the shadows of doubt claim her once more? And then it hit her, a challenge lay ahead, one that could define her path. What if she could meet the resistance Blake spoke of with innovative solutions rather than fear? Blake, what if we collaborated on a piece that fused traditional fashion with inclusivity? Let us embark on a journey to redefine norms together. The air thickened with tension as she awaited his response, every second stretching into eternity. Would she ignite a flicker of intrigue in him, or was this merely the beginning of yet another uphill battle? Jenna held her breath, the weight of her proposal hanging heavily in the air. Blake's brow furrowed as if to wrestle with the very idea she had introduced. This was not just a pitch, it was an audacious challenge to the established order, a daring invitation into uncharted territory. The pulse of anticipation throbbed in her veins while her mind raced through the potential repercussions of her suggestion. Collaborate? Blake echoed, and Jenna could hear the incredulity creeping into his tone. You realize that's a big step, right? What exactly did you have in mind? Her heart surged with a mix of excitement and fear. This was her moment to drill deeper into her vision, to elevate an abstract concept into something solid and tangible. Imagine a collection that tackles the industry's preconceived notions about size and beauty, something that showcases craftsmanship with fabrics that flatter and celebrate diverse body shapes. We could design a flagship piece that not only tells a story but evolves into a movement. A manifesto of sorts, encapsulated in fashion. As she spoke, Jenna felt a greater sense of clarity emerging within her. Her passion transformed into a strategic mindset, prompting her to consider every detail. She envisioned the fabrics, the cuts, the power of storytelling through clothing. Each piece would challenge not just market norms but also client mindsets, implicating the consumers in her mission. Blake leaned forward, a flicker of interest punctuating his skepticism. And you think people will buy into this? That retailers will be on board? Absolutely, she declared, her voice steady with conviction. The fashion dialogue is changing. We can leverage social media to create buzz, iterate on feedback, and ensure we're not just selling clothes but also launching a cultural conversation about inclusivity and representation. For a brief moment, she felt his walls begin to crumble. Engaging in a collaborative spark could embolden both their visions. They were standing at the precipice of transformation, and Jenna was ready to leap. Okay, let us say we go for it. What's the first step? He asked, the tension morphing into collaborative energy. His eyes shone with the thrill of potential. Jenna's mind raced with possibilities, ideas flooding forth. We could start with a focus group. Gather feedback from individuals of varying sizes about what they want in clothing. Then, create an initial batch of prototypes, ensuring that we're including personal narratives from our participants to make each piece feel unique and representative. She could see the gears of consideration turning in Blake's mind. He was beginning to envision the impact they could not only create clothing but also build a movement that addressed long overdue changes in the fashion landscape. But there's still the challenge of production, Blake cautioned. Do we have the resources? The right contacts? Fashion production is a beast in its own right. An electric surge of creativity sharpened Jenna's focus, and she began to strategize. She mentally mapped out potential partnerships, local artisans, sustainable fabric suppliers aligning with the ethical principles she held dear. We can prioritize sustainability and support local talent. Highlight our commitment to ethical production. It's an integral part of storytelling, showing that style and responsibility can coexist. Blake's gaze softened, intrigued by her relentless spirit. However, his hesitations pulsed beneath his confidence. I'm intrigued, but I still think we need a fallback plan. The industry isn't known for its easy acceptance of radical ideas. Her heart sank momentarily, grappling with his reluctance. Jenna knew she had to recalibrate her convictions. She couldn't just be a dreamer, she had to be a doer. Then let us identify what our fallback is. What do we do if we face pushback? Let us be proactive instead of reactive. We can create a manifesto, showcase our intention, and use storytelling to bridge gaps and counter arguments. As she articulated this, Jenna tapped into a deeper layer of her professional identity. She wasn't just an aspiring designer but a challenge seeker. A catalyst for change. Bolstered by her own journey of exclusion, she realized that resilience and innovation were not just desirable but necessary. Just as her thoughts began to crystallize into a clear action plan, her phone buzzed on the table. A notification flashed, breaking their intense discussion. Jenna glanced down, heart racing as she read a message flashing across the screen. Was it an opportunity or a distraction? In that crucial moment, Jenna faced a decision. Should she prioritize their burgeoning collaboration with Blake, pushing forward into the exciting but uncertain future they had begun to shape, or explore a new avenue that could prove essential to her vision? Time slowed as she deliberated, the choices before her embodying not just potential paths but also the obstacles she would need to confront, each echoing with the weight of her commitment to her ideals. Would she allow the noise of the outside world to intertwine with her focus, or would she dispatch her doubts and seize this pivotal opportunity with Blake, cementing their vision for change together? The decision loomed, pregnant with possibility, demanding her ultimate choice. Jenna's heart raced as she scanned the text message on her phone, her mind a cacophony of possibilities and fears. It was a notification from her mentor, a prominent fashion designer known for his avant-garde collections. He was calling for a submission for an upcoming showcase. This was no ordinary opportunity. It could potentially alter the trajectory of her career. The gravity of the situation pressed down on her as Blake's voice broke through her reverie. Jenna? Are you with me? He asked, just a hint of concern in his tone. It yanked her back to the present, reminding her of the partnership they were catalyzing. Yeah, I'm here, she stammered, a rush of adrenaline fueling her. Sorry, just got a message that are you okay? Blake's brow knitted with genuine concern, which was surprising, given their earlier tension. Jenna sighed, biting her lip. It's about a showcase. I've been working toward it for months. It could be an incredible opportunity to put my designs out there. A shadow crossed Blake's face, and Jenna felt an unexpected pang of regret. But we have our thing, she added quickly, determined to reassure him. We need to focus on that. Which is why we should consider our next steps together, he replied, his voice embossed with unease. I'm not saying that opportunity isn't valuable, but if we commit to this project, we need to make sure we're both all in. Jenna's mind churned, the prospect of presenting her collection unfulfilled yet frustratingly alluring. She had spent countless nights sketching ideas and sourcing fabrics. Each dreamt piece was a vital part of who she was becoming, not just a design student, but a voice for change. Blake, I understand the gravity of what we're doing together, she stated, her voice growing steadier. But we also can't ignore that we're both individuals in this industry who have our own paths. What if I could use this showcase to catapult us forward? Or what if it distracts you from what we're building? He leaned back, arms folded, a mixture of admiration and frustration in his gaze. This is a fundamental choice, Jenna. The tension in the air tightened like a spring. She could see how he wanted to protect their vision, but the idea of missing a shot at the showcase to present her line made her insides churn. Let me put it to you this way, she proposed, feeling a flicker of defiance. If I secure a spot, we could use it to gain momentum for our collaboration. I can showcase prototypes of our designs, use this opportunity to gather more feedback, and build hype around our project. Blake raised an eyebrow, intrigued but cautious. And how would that work? You could risk spreading yourself too thin. We'll collaborate on the prototypes, and I can incorporate several elements from our proposed line. I'll pitch our vision through my work, she urged, her voice pouring forth with conviction. We could position ourselves as pioneers in inclusivity while simultaneously catching the attention of the industry. The air hummed with potential as Blake mulled it over. Jenna could tell he was weighing the idea heavily against the odds and risks inherent in the volatile fashion industry. And if you don't get selected? He asked, giving voice to her unspoken fear. What's our next step then? The question hung in the air like a tempest, pressing against her resolve. Jenna had never really faced the prospect of failure so starkly. If she said yes to this showcase and faltered, would it compromise their progress? The anxiety loomed, but deeply embedded within her was an ember of unyielding determination. I believe in us, she replied, conviction spilling from her lips. The world is ready for change, and we have the tools to lead it. But I need to take this chance. The time for second-guessing is over. For a heartbeat, the two locked eyes, the tension thickening as they negotiated their shared ambitions. Blake's features softened, admiration battling with apprehension. Okay, he finally said, and Jenna could see the cogs of strategy clicking in his mind. But let's set a timeline. You get your submission together, and we'll work on our prototypes in tandem. But you need to keep your focus sharp. The showcase could either elevate us or push you into a whirlwind of distractions. Relief coursed through her, a heady mixture of excitement and fear. This was a partnership born from their mutual respect for each other's ambitions. Absolutely, I promise. I won't lose sight of our goal, Jenna reassured him, feeling a sense of partnership solidifying between their shared ambition and the future they were forging. As Jenna drafted her response to the showcase invitation, her mind turned to the prototypes they would craft together. Each stitch was not just a piece of clothing but a declaration of intent. However, lingering uncertainty gnawed at her. What if she was biting off more than she could chew? Yet, the promises and visions of change coursed through her veins, urging her forward. The next chapter of her journey beckoned, draped in fabric and whispers of revolution. But would she find the courage to stitch together her ambitions into a cohesive reality? Blake's words echoed in her ears. There was still the challenge of production ahead. And just as Jenna considered her next steps, another notification pinged, revealing insights that could turn everything she anticipated on its head, stirring fresh fears about exactly how far they could go. Jenna's fingers trembled as she opened the message on her phone. The article headline flashed across the screen, saturated with eye-catching phrases and promises of a sensational reveal. There it was, 243 ideal candidates revealed as the billionaire chose the plus-size girl. The accompanying image featured a woman radiating confidence in a vibrant outfit, accentuating her curves, a stark contrast to the industry's often narrow definitions of beauty. An ache of doubt pierced through Jenna, as she questioned whether her own designs would resonate as boldly. Blake's brow furrowed as he peered over her shoulder. That's quite the headline, he remarked, a mix of curiosity and caution lacing his tone. The enthusiasm she felt about the showcase now wrestled with a growing uncertainty. Would this moment of visibility translate into a breakthrough for her? Look at the attention she's getting, Jenna mused, almost unconsciously. What if I can't capture that kind of energy? What if my designs don't have the same impact? The pressure to succeed seized her chest. What if she was simply not enough? A silence stretched between them, heavy with the weight of her vulnerability. She could see Blake shifting, grappling with his understanding of risk for both of them. "You can't let that shape your designs or deter your progress," he finally said. "This is about forging your own path, Jenna. Build your own narrative." But how could she separate herself from the shadows of others? A persistent voice nagged at her as she recalled the meticulous sketches filling her notebook, each infused with her identity and vision. Could they rival the buzz of a headline? "Maybe I've been thinking about this all wrong," she confessed, exhaling sharply. "If I just focus on being true to my craft, my designs might find their own audiences. Perhaps I should embrace the influence of diverse inspirations rather than being daunted by them." Blake's gaze softened, a flicker of pride illuminating his features. "That's the spirit," he encouraged. "Your voice is unique. You can redefine what it means to be a designer in this space. Let that motivation steer your choices." Fired up by his encouragement, she began assembling ideas for their collaboration, compartmentalizing her fears into actionable plans. Each piece would reflect not just fashion, but her beliefs promoting inclusivity and challenging conventional images. She could weave her story through fabric. In the following days, Jenna worked from sunrise to sundown, fabric swatches sprawled on the table like a painter's palette. Each stitch, each color selection became a statement of her values. She could already envision showcasing prototypes that represented not just one aesthetic, but a myriad of narratives, a spectrum of beauty that could resonate with an audience eager for authenticity. Yet, the shadows of doubt lurked in the corners of her mind. What if the industry would not hear her voice? What if her ambition to disrupt the status quo was futile? A chilly breath of anxiety slithered down her spine as she considered the possibility of rejection. But with every sketch she completed, she felt herself redenoting the boundaries she had once feared. Jenna struck a balance between her needs and those of the collective ambitions she cherished with Blake. She had not only to ensure her designs left an impression but also to validate their significance in a world hungry for change. Then came the revelation that pulled everything taut. An unexpected email from her mentor dropped into her inbox. The showcase would include a mentor session before submissions closed. Jenna felt the surge of a new kind of adrenaline. But this opportunity was more than another chance. It was a pivotal moment treading close to a crossroad. "Blake," she said, the urgency in her voice cutting through the air. "I need to prepare for this mentoring session. If I can share my vision and get feedback, it could be a game changer." He nodded, an understanding passing between them. Their partnership was solidified, but a new layer of tension emerged, demanding that both step into an arena where vulnerability met courage. She couldn't ignore the stakes, not just for herself, but for the ideas they championed. As Jenna began mapping her presentation, a weight lifted, her fear transformed into fierce determination. She began crafting not just clothing, but narratives and dreams woven into fabric, ready to enthrall an audience. But just as she felt momentum building, another notification pinged, an unsettling reminder that the industry's mechanics were unpredictable. The message contained a stark perspective from a fellow designer, a stark breakdown of the odds Jenna faced navigating the tumultuous world they were part of. How far was Jenna willing to go for validation? Would she stand firm or let the narrative shape her? The thread linking her dreams to the reality ahead began to fray, nudging her closer to the precipice of decision. The mentor session could either elevate her clarity or amplify her insecurities. Anxiety coiled with anticipation, and as Jenna steeled herself to confront her past fears, the path ahead transformed into a labyrinth of chance and possibility. Would she emerge as the voice she longed to be, or would uncertainty dim the vibrant designs she had painstakingly crafted? The day of the mentor session arrived, shrouded in mist and anticipation. Jenna stood in front of her mirror, her reflection revealing a woman straddling the line between vulnerability and bold ambition. Her heart raced as she adjusted the collar of the chic blazer that fit her not only physically but symbolically. This was a suit of armor against the uncertainties that loomed ahead. She had spent countless hours piecing together her presentation, crafting each slide with the intention of encapsulating her journey as a designer. The brainstorming sessions with Blake lingered in her mind, their late-night conversations filled with laughter and moments of revelation rekindling her resolve. Yet as she recalled his words urging her to embrace her uniqueness, a flicker of doubt sparked anew within her. As she walked into the brightly lit venue, the hum of voices buzzed around her like bees circling a flower. It was a labyrinth of ambition, a room filled with artists, designers, and the unsung heroes of the fashion world, all clamoring for the same validation. Jenna inhaled deeply, her confidence wrestling against her fears, trying to evoke the powerful mantra she'd rehearsed. Here she was, ready to transform her ideas into something greater. The panel of mentors awaited, their expressions intentionally neutral as they observed the crowd. Jenna's pulse quickened. She was one in a sea of hopefuls, and the stakes felt crushing. But she reminded herself it wasn't solely about validation, it was about articulating her vision, rallying against a narrow definition of beauty. When her turn arrived, Jenna stepped onto the small stage, gripping the edges of the podium as though it were her anchor in stormy seas. The glare of lights was blinding, but she found solace in the silhouettes of the mentors, seeking connection rather than judgment. "Good morning. My name is Jenna," she began, her voice steadier than she felt. "I want to share not just my designs but the stories they tell. My journey as a designer has always been driven by the pursuit of inclusivity." Images flickered onto the screen behind her, portrayal after portrayal depicting diverse bodies adorned in her creations. With each slide, Jenna felt the weight of doubt lifting. This wasn't merely a showcase, it was a statement. Yet, mid-presentation, her nerves flickered like a flame, causing her thoughts to stutter. What if they don't understand? An insidious voice taunted in her head. But she pushed through, reminding herself that authenticity could ignite change. As the feedback portion commenced, Jenna braced herself. Answers flowed, ranging from praise of her vision to constructive critiques that stung but held truths she knew she needed to hear. "You must remember the importance of the market," one mentor advised, a slight frown creasing his forehead. "You're aiming for a broad narrative in a niche industry." The words settled in her chest, heavy, reminding her of the fine line between artistic integrity and commercial success. Was the industry a mirror for her ideals, or a cage dictating who she ought to be? In that moment of reflection, a realization unfurled within her. This was not simply about fitting into a predetermined space, this was about redefining it. By focusing on authenticity, she could redefine beauty. Her individuality had the potential to resonate with others, to challenge narratives. As she finished her presentation and stepped off the stage, the adrenaline coursing through her veins blended with uncertainty, but this time it felt different. This was the beginning. Jenna knew the true battle emerged not just in the showcases or panels, but in her self-perception and convictions. The threshold had been crossed, yet anew she faced the realities of the industry waiting off stage. Would the mentor's insights spur growth, or would they choke her ambition? The uncertainty lingered, but the fire she felt suffused her with renewed fierceness. Just as she caught her breath, her phone vibrated violently in her pocket, a message demanding her attention, with a preview hinting at a scandal brewing within the industry. Curiosity ensnared her. What could it possibly entail? Would this be the revelation to propel her forward, or yet another distraction that pushed her off her course? As Jenna's heart raced with the thrill of opportunity and apprehension of potential crisis, she stepped outside, resolved. Today had been a turning point, but she hadn't anticipated the path ahead was already about to twist dramatically. Jenna paused outside the bustling venue, her heart still pounding as she read the message on her screen. The uproar around her faded into a distant murmur. 243 ideal candidates revealed as the Billionaire chose the plus-size girl, an incredible, touching story. The title blared like a siren, its promise of drama a stark contrast to the quiet determination roiling within her. She contemplated the implications of the headline. Could this refer to a casting call she had initially dismissed as mere sensationalism? Or worse, was it just another publicity stunt? Jenna felt a mix of intrigue and wariness as she considered the potential repercussions. On the one hand, this revelation could force the industry to confront its biases. On the other, it risked commodifying the very narratives she fought against. Would celebrating a plus-size model's selection reinforce positive change, or would it be another band-aid over a gaping wound? As she walked away from the crowd, each footstep echoed her internal conflict. The mentor feedback still echoed in her ears, the dichotomy of art versus commercialism reigniting her ambition but also deepening her sense of isolation. She carefully tucked her phone back into her blazer pocket, exhaling sharply, attempting to reset her focus. It was time to leverage her design talents and navigate this storm, not just for herself but for the kind of beauty she believed in. She arrived at her cramped studio, a space of both clutter and inspiration. Fabric swatches and sketchpads lay strewn across the tables like a historical battle map of her creative journey. Jenna took a moment to breathe it all, and this was her sanctuary. Here, she had the freedom to explore her artistic identity without constraints. Yet, she also felt a wave of apprehension wash over her. What if she was falling behind? What if she didn't act quickly enough in this fast-paced industry? Determined to harness her thoughts, Jenna made her way to the sewing machine. The rhythmic hum soothed her, allowing her ideas to materialize around her. She would create a collection focused on plus-size fashion, designed to challenge perceptions and redefine beauty from within. Her mission wasn't simply to follow trends but to embed her convictions directly into her work. By doing so, she could carve her place in the very industry that often marginalized those it claimed to include. But as she sketched, preparing patterns with care, the initial excitement began to wear off, replaced by a nagging unease. The industry's skepticism loomed large like a dark cloud, threatening to overshadow her ambitions. The memories of the mentor's critique resurfaced. Would her vision resonate broadly enough to circumvent the niche trap? With a sudden burst of determination, Jenna decided to use the scandal making waves within the industry to her advantage. She'd reach out to other designers, models, and influencers who engaged in the ongoing discussions, strategizing partnerships that transcended traditional barriers. It could be risky, but the potential to connect with the new narrative around body positivity was enough to ignite her spirit further. Jenna spent hours crafting a plan, setting up meetings, pitching her ideas for collaborative projects. Each outreach felt like a tightrope walk, balancing between hope and fear of rejection. But this was more than just business, it was personal. It was about creating a space for every body to feel celebrated. A pensive smile crossed her face as she reviewed her ideas. The risks she took gave her the thrill she craved, each next step a leap of faith fueled by passion. Yet, as she stared out the window, noticing the fading sunlight, uncertainty still clung to her. What if everything unraveled? What if the significance of her work went unnoticed amid a media frenzy? Her heart pounded with both anxiety and anticipation. Suddenly, her phone buzzed again, a response from one of her outreach efforts. She hesitated, finger hovering above the screen, breath caught in her throat. Would this be the opportunity she'd been waiting for? Or another hurdle to conquer? The answer lay just a tap away, as uncertainty twisted into excitement, and she leaned closer, the next move poised to define not just her career, but her very identity. Jenna stood in her studio, the cacophony of creativity pulsating through her fingers as she pieced together an array of designs that truly represented her journey. With each thread she stitched, the tumult of her earlier doubts began to settle. She was no longer just a hopeful designer, she had evolved into an advocate for change, a visionary who understood the power of representation in fashion. The next morning, as she opened her laptop, Jenna could feel the energy in the air crackle with possibility. The response from her outreach had arrived, affirmative support from a well-known influencer passionate about body positivity willing to collaborate. It felt like the universe was aligning, nudging her forward with every confirmation that flooded her inbox over the next few days. Each yes propelled her closer to her vision, feeding her ambition. By breaking the silence that had once shrouded her, Jenna transformed with tangible confidence. She merged her designs and her newfound connections into a cohesive collection aimed at redefining beauty standards within the industry. Not just through her work but through a bold campaign that highlighted voices across the spectrum of size and shape. Each piece would tell stories of resilience, elegance, and the unapologetic celebration of the human form. With an unwavering focus, Jenna led a brainstorming session with her collaborator, mapping out the collection's overarching message. "We're not just creating a line, we're igniting a movement," she asserted, a determined glint in her eyes. They dissected concepts, colors, fabrics, and narratives, intertwining their creative spirits into something greater than themselves. Amidst the whirlwind of inspiration, Jenna remembered the mentor session. She had emerged stronger and more resolute, ready to redefine industry norms through authenticity rather than imitation. That was when Jenna had realized the path to true success lay within her by being unapologetically herself. As the collection came together, Jenna's anticipation reached a fever pitch. The premiere showcase of her designs was fast approaching, but instead of anxiety, she was enveloped by an exhilarating sense of purpose. She finally understood that this wasn't merely about her debut, it was about every individual who had ever felt marginalized by traditional beauty standards. On the day of the showcase, Jenna stood backstage, a kaleidoscope of fabrics swirling all around her. This is it, she thought, grounding herself amidst the chaos. Her heart echoed the rhythm of her creations as they graced the runway, designs that celebrated individuality lithe in seamless movement. Her vision had been brought to life, epitomizing beauty, diversity, and the artistry of inclusion. After the show, the buzz around her collection ignited conversations across social media platforms. Attendees clamored to learn the stories behind the pieces. The influencers who had once been mere names in her phone now amplified her message. Jenna watched as her designs resonated deeply, transforming anxiety into validation, and casting aside self-doubt for a robust dialogue on body positivity. Then came Blake's text, chiming through with an excitement that mingled with her own. Your designs are making waves. The industry is responding. You've shifted the narrative. With that reassurance, Jenna finally felt the frayed edges of her past unravel as she embraced newfound recognition as solid confidence that surpassed her previous self. Reflecting on the journey, Jenna realized the transformation wasn't merely external. She had conquered the conflict that lingered within, solidified her identity, and blossomed into a force that would not be overlooked. No longer shackled by others' expectations, she emerged unapologetically with her designs, each one a testament to her strength, talent, and unwavering belief in the necessity of change. As the spotlight shone brightly above her, Jenna understood that personal triumph wasn't solely about external validation. It was about embracing her authentic self, harnessing her voice, and achieving rightful recognition in the very industry that had once cast her aside. This was her moment. She had conquered the shadows of doubt and emerged victorious not just as a designer but as a beacon for anyone yearning to break free from societal constraints. Now, it was your turn to partake in this journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. Truly, only fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.